The moment I realized my coworker had blocked me on every single platform, my chest actually tightened. 1 second I was laughing at a stupid meme I wanted to send her, and the next I was staring at a screen that suddenly made me feel like I had done something unforgivable. What messed with my head the most was that just a week earlier, I honestly thought we were becoming real friends. When I started working at that company, I was still trying to figure everything out. I had only been there a couple of months, and every day felt like I was walking into a completely different situation. The company had multiple locations, and because I was new, management constantly moved me around to cover stores whenever someone was off. One day I would be at a quiet location with no customers, and the next day I would be thrown into a chaotic store where everyone expected me to magically know how things worked. It was stressful, especially because I hated looking incompetent in front of people. Out of everybody there, the one person who made me feel comfortable was this girl named Sierra. She was funny in a very natural way, not the kind of person who tried too hard to get attention. The first week we worked together, she joked around with me like we had already known each other for years. That instantly made me relax around her because most workplaces have people who act fake nice until they find a reason not to. Sierra did not feel like that at first. She seemed genuine. Over time we naturally started talking more during shifts. If the store was dead, we would call each other from different locations just to pass time while folding inventory or handling random tasks. Sometimes we complained about rude customers. Sometimes we talked about movies, relationships, or weird stories from our lives. It started feeling less like coworker small talk and more like an actual friendship forming. Eventually we exchanged numbers, followed each other on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and started sending each other random memes throughout the week. I remember thinking how rare it was to click with someone that quickly at work. Most people keep their guard up around coworkers because jobs can become messy fast. But with Sierra it felt easy. She would vent to me about management sometimes, and I would vent to her about feeling overwhelmed being bounced between stores. She always acted supportive. Whenever I had questions, she usually answered without making me feel stupid. Since I was still learning the job, the problem was that being the new employee basically turned me into the company backup plan. If someone called out, I got sent there. If a manager had a day off, I covered. If a store needed extra help, I was suddenly driving across town. Because of that, I often ended up working in stores I barely knew anything about. Every location had little differences too. Certain managers wanted things done specific ways. Certain equipment worked differently, and some stores had ongoing issues nobody warned me about beforehand. One afternoon I got assigned to cover Sierra's store while she had the day off. I did not think anything of it because I had covered there before. The shift started normal enough until a customer came in complaining about the temperature inside the store. The air felt weird to me too, so I went to check the thermostat. The problem was I had no clue what the settings were supposed to be for that location because every manager seemed to have different preferences. At the time, texting Sierra felt like the most logical thing in the world. It was her store, she knew the setup. I was not texting her to gossip or drag her into unnecessary drama. I literally just needed a quick answer so I could fix the issue and move on with my shift. So I sent something simple asking what temperature the thermostat should be set to. She replied pretty quickly with the answer, but then another message came through right after it, then another. The tone instantly felt different. She started explaining that she really did not like being contacted about work on her days off. She said I reached out to her a lot whenever I needed help, and that it became overwhelming sometimes. She also pointed out that there were other co-workers I could contact instead of always going to her. I remember staring at my phone feeling completely caught off guard because in my mind, none of our conversations ever seemed one-sided. We talked constantly, we joked constantly. She had never once acted irritated before. If anything, she always seemed happy to talk. So seeing all that suddenly thrown at me out of nowhere honestly made me feel embarrassed. Still, I immediately apologized because I understood her point. Nobody likes work invading their personal time. I texted back telling her I did not realize it bothered her and that I would stop contacting her on days off. I even told her to enjoy the rest of her day because I genuinely was not trying to argue. She responded saying she was not trying to be rude and that she just needed boundaries between work and personal time. I told her I completely understood and apologized again. The conversation ended calmly enough, at least on the surface. I thought maybe it was just one of those awkward misunderstandings people move past in adulthood, but honestly, something about the interaction stuck with me the rest of the shift. It was not even what she said, it was how sudden it felt. One minute we were work besties constantly messaging each other, and the next minute it sounded like I had been secretly annoying her for weeks without realizing it. That feeling got worse the very next morning. I walked into work and saw an email sent to the entire team from management. The subject line was about respecting employees during off hours. The email basically reminded everyone not to contact coworkers on their days off unless absolutely necessary because personal time should stay personal time. The second I read it, my stomach dropped. Maybe I was paranoid, but the timing felt way too specific. This issue had literally happened with Sierra the day before. Now suddenly there was a company-wide reminder about contacting people off the clock. My immediate thought was that she had complained about me to management after our conversation ended. That bothered me more than I expected. What hurt was not even the possibility that she complained. It was the fact that she acted understanding in our texts while apparently escalating it behind my back. If she truly felt uncomfortable, I would have respected that immediately. I already had. I apologized without arguing. So why involve management afterward instead of just leaving it at our conversation? I kept rereading the email while other responses started coming in from different managers. Ironically, several of them replied saying that if someone was covering their store, they absolutely wanted employees to contact them if there were problems. Some even encouraged people to reach out anytime if they needed help running things smoothly. That only made me more confused. Now I felt like I had somehow broken an unwritten rule that apparently was not even consistent across the company. One person saw it as inappropriate while others expected it. The entire thing suddenly felt uncomfortable and messy for no reason. After that, I intentionally stopped contacting Sierra completely during shifts. If I needed help, I asked literally anybody else. Even when I worked her location again, I avoided reaching out to her. Part of me felt awkward and guilty, while another part of me felt slightly resentful because the situation seemed blown out of proportion. Still, I figured things would eventually go back to normal. At least I hoped they would. For the next week, we barely interacted. When we did cross paths at work, she acted polite enough, but something definitely felt colder. The easy conversations disappeared. The jokes disappeared. Even the casual energy between us felt forced now. I kept trying to convince myself I was overthinking it, but deep down I knew the dynamic had changed. One night I was laying in bed scrolling through Instagram when I came across a meme about terrible customers. It immediately reminded me of one of our old conversations, and without really thinking, I hit the share button and typed her name into the search bar. Nothing came up. At first I assumed Instagram was glitching, so I manually searched her profile. Still nothing. Then I clicked our old message thread, and suddenly it hit me. Her account was gone from my side completely. No profile picture, no posts, nothing. I remember sitting up in bed thinking there was no way she actually blocked me. So I checked TikTok. Blocked, then Twitter. Blocked there too. My chest honestly sank at that point because it felt so extreme compared to what had happened. We did not fight, I did not insult her, I did not harass her. I texted her one work question while covering her store, apologized immediately when she said it bothered her, and then completely respected her boundaries afterward. Yet somehow I got erased from every part of her online life like I was some toxic ex-boyfriend. The worst part was the confusion. If someone screams at you or betrays you, at least you understand why things ended badly. But this felt like emotional whiplash. One week we were talking every day, laughing during shifts, sending memes back and forth, and acting like actual friends. The next week I was blocked everywhere without explanation. I spent days replaying every interaction in my head trying to figure out if I missed something. Maybe I asked for help too often without realizing it. Maybe she secretly found me annoying long before that conversation. Maybe she was only being friendly because we worked together and I mistook that friendliness for genuine friendship. That last thought honestly hurt the most. I started noticing little details in hindsight that bothered me. There were times when I opened up about stressful things in my life, while she mostly kept conversations surface level. There were moments where I considered us closer than she probably ever considered us. Looking back, maybe I built up the friendship in my head more than she did. Work friendships are weird like that. When you spend hours talking to someone during long shifts, it creates this artificial closeness. You start feeling like they are part of your actual life because you see them constantly. But sometimes the second work tension enters the picture, you realize the connection was never as deep as you believed. Still, blocking me on everything felt unnecessarily harsh. If she needed space, she could have simply stopped responding as much. She could have kept things professional at work. She could have muted my stories or limited contact naturally over time. But cutting me off entirely without a word made me feel like some kind of problem she needed to eliminate. For a while it genuinely messed with my confidence at work too. I became hyper-aware of how often I asked people for help. Every time I needed clarification on something, I worried I was secretly irritating everyone around me. I started second-guessing normal interactions because I did not want another situation where someone quietly built resentment toward me while pretending everything was fine. One shift in particular still sticks with me. I was working with another manager named Derek who noticed I seemed unusually quiet. Normally I joked around during shifts, but that day I barely spoke unless necessary. At one point he finally asked if I was alright. I almost brushed it off, but eventually I told him a watered-down version of what happened with Sierra. Not the blocking part, just the situation about contacting her on her day off. Derek immediately looked confused. He literally said, "You were covering her store. Why would she get mad about that?" That reaction weirdly validated everything I had been feeling internally. Up until then I kept wondering if maybe I really had crossed some major line without realizing it. Hearing another coworker react like the situation was not that serious made me feel less crazy. But even with that reassurance, the emotional damage was already done. The thing people do not talk about enough is how humiliating silent rejection can feel. If someone openly dislikes you, at least the tension exists in the open. But when somebody acts friendly for weeks or months and then suddenly cuts you off completely, your brain starts dissecting every detail trying to locate the exact moment things became fake. I hated how much mental energy I wasted thinking about it. At one point I even considered asking her directly at work why she blocked me. But every time I imagined the conversation, it felt pathetic. If someone goes out of their way to remove you from their life, chasing answers usually just makes you look desperate. So I never brought it up. Instead, I slowly started emotionally distancing myself from workplace friendships in general. I still remained friendly with people, but I stopped confusing proximity with loyalty. Just because someone laughs with you during a shift does not automatically mean they value you outside of convenience. Some coworkers are genuinely real friends. Others are simply passing time until their schedule changes. Months later, I actually saw Sierra talking and laughing with another new employee the same way she used to with me. Watching that from across the store gave me this strange feeling I cannot fully explain. It was not jealousy exactly. It was more like clarity. I realized that Sierra probably was not some cruel villain who intentionally wanted to hurt me. She likely just had very firm boundaries and poor communication skills. Instead of directly creating distance when she felt overwhelmed, she let irritation build quietly until she decided the easiest solution was cutting me off completely. That does not make what she did feel good, but it helped me stop taking it so personally. People operate based on their own emotional habits, and sometimes those habits have nothing to do with your worth. Some people confront issues calmly, some gossip behind your back, some disappear without explanation because they hate uncomfortable conversations. The blocking honestly said more about how she handles conflict than it said about me as a person. Looking back now, I can admit I probably did lean on her too much at work without noticing. Since she was the person I felt closest to there, I naturally defaulted to asking her questions. From my perspective, it felt harmless because we talked all the time anyway. From her perspective, maybe it started feeling like responsibility she never asked for. Both things can be true at once. But I still believe the way she handled it was excessive. If somebody apologizes immediately, respects your boundary, and changes their behavior, there is no real reason to go nuclear afterward unless deeper resentment already existed beneath the surface. The blocking was probably not about one text message. It was likely weeks of feelings she never communicated honestly until she finally snapped internally. That experience taught me something important though. Not every connection is meant to last. And not every friendly person is meant to become part of your real life. Some people enter your routine temporarily, teach you something painful about boundaries or expectations, and then disappear just as quickly as they arrived. At first I felt rejected, then embarrassed, then angry, but eventually I mostly felt grateful that the situation showed me how fragile workplace friendships can be before I became even more emotionally invested. Because honestly, the hardest part was never getting blocked. The hardest part was realizing I cared about the friendship far more than she ever did.